And welcome to Weather and Ag in Focus on this finally Friday, December 5th. Only, less than 3 weeks until Christmas. So hopefully you are getting all your Christmas shopping done. And Mother Nature is throwing a few wrenches into it if you're out and about today. In fact, got a report just a little bit ago from Trucker Al. He's out on 94 westbound. West of mile marker 270, he said there's a lot of blowing snow with those north winds, really greasing up those westbound lanes west of mile marker 270. So please, if you're heading west of the valley, out in the central and western part of the state, be aware of some pretty slippery conditions on 94 there. So I'm Chief Meteorologist Dean Wysocki, along with our Ag Director Bridgette Readel. And Bridgette, big day today. We've got our LRC winter weather outlook coming up after Weather and Ag in Focus here, and this is gonna be a fun, excuse me, a fun winter. And by fun, I know a lot of people are not liking the word fun, but you know, being a meteorologist, and we hate boring winters. And I'm sorry, the last two winters they've been pretty darn boring. So I do think this winter is going to be a little bit different.
Well, I think folks are looking forward to hearing what is in store for the next few months. Again, I have some listener questions already for us to want to review. And I think that overall, we have some requests. How's that? There are some requests from those who are listening to say, here's what I need to see happen when it comes to the weather. And with any luck, we can make that available for them. Something like going into the fall dry, and in the spring letting us get planting done before we start getting socked with a bunch of rainfall.
Right. And we've got some highlights of when peak precip is going to occur as we head into the spring months too, which is very important for our ag community. Obviously, we don't want to go into too dry of a spring, that's for sure. Overall this year, Bridgette, what was your take on moisture? Did we receive, for most of us, we'll just talk the majority of us, did we receive enough moisture for our ag community, for our farmers?
Oh my God, go to Western Cass County. They were swimming in it. And I mean, like literally, figuratively.
I know just west of here, there was a lot. So, but.
Oh yeah. Well, I think overall, remember, we don't need to have rain every week in order to make this crop. We need timely rain, and we want some drying periods in between there so that we have a crop that is quality. And right now, we're losing quality a lot of times on our acres because it's far too wet. So we really want to see things change and get a little drier around here. I think that would be a good recommendation. Some call it a flash drought late in the season last year. Maybe we don't need to go through a 6 to 8 week period that's super dry over as we get into Minnesota. Maybe we just need to space that rainfall out. We're okay with average because you only use a 30-year average anyway. So we're okay with average, but we definitely need to have it in a different time frame.
Right. Yeah, no doubt. And we'll go over more of that coming up after Weather and Ag in Focus. But in the short term, we do have some pretty cold conditions out there. It's we're still continuing with those below normal temperatures, and we'll be stuck in the teens the rest of the day, even slowly falling off as we head into the afternoon under cloudy skies. And again, watch out for some of that blowing snow on those east-west roadways. Northwest winds will be blowing at about 10 to 25. Then overnight tonight, we're looking at the cloudy skies and might see a few light snow showers pull in from the west as a clipper dives down to our south. With northwest winds on the lighter side, we'll drop down to between 0 and 5 above, and then a few morning snow showers on Saturday, then mainly cloudy skies, highs anywhere between 10 and 15 above. Then Sunday, we will see a few breaks of sunshine, but cold sunshine. Arctic air moves in, highs only between 5 and 10 above. And then we start a parade of clipper systems as we head into next week. In fact, we're going to add to our snow totals, and this is one of the things we'll be talking about on our winter outlook here coming up. We've got a weak clipper system coming in Sunday night. That'll give us a dusting half-inch of snow. But then we have two other stronger clipper systems that are on target for Tuesday and Thursday of next week. Now, next week we'll warm back up into the 20s, so we'll be a little closer to normal. So we'll push the Arctic air north, but in return, we get on that clipper train, and we're going to see 2, maybe 3 systems over the next week to 10 days that are going to add quite a bit to the snowpack around the area. So we'll get some moisture, we'll get some fresh snowpack, and we'll continue with the at or below normal temperatures, it looks like, as we head into the middle of December. So if for the snow lovers and the people that need moisture, we've definitely got some coming starting next week.
Folks who want to see it are happy. In fact, there's a lot of snowmobilers, or excuse me, not snowmobilers, ice fishermen who are glad to see some of those cold temperatures, because we're going to see some great ice being made nice and clear and getting some thickness to it. I saw some holes being drilled up at Devil's Lake. They were already getting 3-4 inches of ice, so they're pretty happy to see that happening. This weather report is brought to us by Progressive Ag. They are our risk management specialists. And with this cold weather, it means that there's going to be times where things get wet and soggy. You know, those kids' clothes, those bulky snowsuits, ski pants, all those things. Rather than you dealing with them, drop them on the weekend at the Coral Laundromat that's over there on Veterans Boulevard. Get those things cleaned up so that you don't have to. You can just pick them up later because you've got other errands to do as well. Get them ready to go back to school next week. So thank you to Coral Laundromat for sponsoring our studio. And for questions you're going to have throughout the day, you can reach us on the JLA Insurance phone line. That number is 701-293-9000. We appreciate all those phone calls. Matt Thorsrud at JLA Insurance is happy to talk to you about crop insurance, because let's face it, that's coming very soon as we approach the end of the year. There's going to be deadlines in mid-March already. You're maybe watching us today on our live streams. You can find those on Facebook, YouTube, and Acres TV, and they are brought to us by Lighthouse Commodities. So check it out, the WDAY Weather and Ag in Focus. Again, those are our live streams on all 3 places. And lastly, for the emails that I've been receiving in regards to the weather special and other topics, they are arriving in my inbox, which is powered by Superior Grain Equipment. Protect your farm's future with Superior Grain Storage, Drying and Handling Solutions. Go look for them at superiourbins.com, but you can email me, ag@flagfamily.com, and Dean is weather@flagfamily.com. Much going on in the way of ways to contact us, see what we're doing, and talk about all of the things that are on our agendas. One of those items really is Christmas shopping. There's a lot up and coming. Some of you might be done. Others are even just considering it today. Well, if you're thinking about some of that shopping, I went ahead and put some of our farm gift ideas on our Facebook page for you. You can go look for them there. Maybe there is a farm kid in your life that you're looking for something unique, as well as farmers. You can find some useful gifts and tools for them. One of the coolest things I saw the other day, and I'm waiting for somebody to tell me if it's worthwhile before I bought it. They actually they are molded like the batteries on the bottom of your DeWalt and Milwaukee battery-powered tools, but they're a plastic guide, if you will, and you can screw those to your workbench or to a cabinet so that when your tools are not in use, rather than them having to sit with their batteries in them, you can clip them into these molded hangers or these molded guides, and those tools would stay upright and where you need them when you need to find them. So that looked like a great idea that I just happened to see the other day. I hope it works out as well as it seemed. And then additionally, one of the last things I added was for the book lovers, there are a variety of books you might want to check out that are all ag inspired. One of my favorites that I've read as well is Driving Home Naked, Stories of a Veterinarian. And that's written by a vet out in Virginia. She talks about what it's like when sometimes things go wrong in the barn. Like she's trying to sew a prolapsed uterus back in, and well, it's messy. It's bloody.
I would
And
think
she said
so.
it was just easier. Yeah, it was just easier not to wear her terrible coveralls in her pickup to drive home that day. So,
Oof.
yes, there's some pretty good stories in that book as well.
Interesting.
Those things happen. And also books by some of our guests, like Brian Reisinger, who's joined us. He talks about his family farm in Wisconsin, and the title of that book is Land Rich, Cash Poor, and it talks about the transition of a family farm from what it was until today's era. And I think it's a pretty good read for those of you who like catching up on some of your ag-focused hardbacks. So this would be a good one to pick up. We have lots to chat about today. First and foremost, we're going to have Gregg Hanson with Hanson Agri-Commodities joining us here shortly after the American Ag Network's Livestock Report. We want to talk about what's been happening in the commodity markets for the week because there's always something happening in the commodity markets. Now, we've got more headlines and weather items to come as we get ready for Dean's weather special here after 2 o'clock. But in the meantime, stay tuned for the market update when we return with Gregg Hanson. We are ready to visit with Gregg Hanson. This is Market Uncovered. Let's have a recap and a discussion about what's going on in the markets at this time for the last week. For those of you who have questions, you can reach us on the JLA Insurance phone line. You can call us at 701-293-9000, and you can also send us emails ag@flagfamily.com. That inbox is powered by Superior Grain Equipment. Gregg, any major milestones in the week you'd like to start out by highlighting?
Well, do you want to start with the good news or the bad news?
I want to start with the good news. It's Friday.
All right, let's start with the good news. Let's talk cattle. You may not have noticed it, but we have rebounded and regained twice or half of what we lost. Just kind of looking at the cattle market, we lost around $40, $45. We got half of it back now. that might be the easy part of the rally. But hey, there's some good news. The chatter is the border's going to stay shut for a while. And when they do open it up, it's going to be slow. They'll probably start with maybe a crossing in Arizona and slowly kind of work things through. But that seemed to help us put a bottom in. Now we're only one bad headline or bad tweet away from, losing what we've gained. But it looks like, we definitely have seen cash looking to rebound from the poor trade we saw last Thursday. And like I said, there's our good news is, for the cattle guys, at least we're getting some of this back, getting closer to where probably fair value should be.
I think that sounds fair that we got about half of it back after having spent the majority of the week with a whole cattlemen's convention group. They were feeling the positive. And just like any grain farmer, they will tell you, well, I missed that high in October, but I'm hoping for another one. And so if this holds, as we see some end of the year sales happen, they're going to be much more pleased with it. So what's the bad news?
Well, beans did not close well today. We are going to be down about 11 to 14, corn off a couple. We did see Chinese sales announced this morning. They bought about 17 million bushels. They need to buy a lot more. But it's first that we'd seen really announced all week. So, it felt, hey, maybe we can kind of end the week on a good tone. Well, that fizzled pretty early. And I know, there's some weather in South America, that central part of Mato Grosso where they've been kind of really dry, just kind of getting just enough. They've got some thunderstorms rolling through. So they're feeling better. I mean, it's not solving all the problems with their subsoil, but hey, they're catching enough rain to kind of kick that can down the road. The weather looks a little better today than it did a week ago. So that's a little negative. I think there's also a little disappointment when it comes to the China deal. I had heard rumblings a while ago that while an agreement has been made, nothing has been signed. And now one of the trade reps made a comment today that there is no documentation signed on a bean deal. It's a verbal agreement, which I would hope they will follow through on, but there is no paperwork signed. And I think the market getting a little tired, this week has really, December is usually a pretty quiet marketing month. It's felt like a December all week. And no news is bad news. I think the poor close today technically is going to flash some sell signals to the trading computers next week. Not only a poor weekly close, just poor daily close, looking like maybe a head and shoulder formation on the chart, which would mean setback down towards that gap, which is 20, 30 cents from below where we're at. Now, I would say this, where we saw the Chinese come in and buy last night, it's kind of the same price where we've seen them buy before. So even if we did dip on the board, it should just make us more competitive on price anyway. So hopefully if we do get a technical sell-off, the Chinese come in, start buying hand over fist, and then it'll just be a short-lived move as we hopefully then bounce higher on stronger Chinese demand.
So you lead us to a lot of questions that I've been getting from those who are listening, because folks are catching on that Gregg Hanson joins us every Friday for Market Uncovered. And some of the things that folks want to ask are, could the final biofuels regulations, what could that do to the market? Do you have any indicators you could share, Greg?
I mean, you're talking politics.
Good point.
With this administration, things changed fast from one thing to another. I mean, I think biofuel, whether it's biodiesel, whether ethanol, whatever, it's all good for here in the U.S. And it feels like there's going to be more and more of that as we go forward. Will we see legislation to build it out as fast as we want? Probably not. But it does feel like this is something that's coming. There is still a little bit of a fight between big oil and between the ag industry. With the renewable diesel side, we're kind of bedfellows a little bit. The ethanol boom was really driven by the farmer. The biodiesel demand it's partnered with big oil. They have a vested interest in this. But it still feels like there's just enough of a headwind fighting big oil on some things that I think it's coming. It's just not going to come as fast as we want.
Another question that has been posed is, would an increase in soy crush capacity offset China's buying? Because we know that they haven't bought the amount that was assumed. And I'm not even going to say that they promised. I'm going to say that it was assumed they would buy by the end of the year. And if, in fact, if we increase our crush capacity, what are we going to do with the extra meal and oil? Where would that be going?
Well, the oil's not the issue because to be honest, if it wasn't for the cost of building a plant, there's a lot of plants that want to get built. I think there is that much demand for the renewable diesel. For the last 30 years, we've been crushing soybeans because we need the meal, and that has completely changed down the last year or two. We are crushing for the bean oil, and we will get rid of it through renewables as far as renewable energies. Really, the headwind will be on the meal side. Now, I would argue that Chinese demographics make it look like their population's shrinking. Their demand has peaked. They are not. Every year they will not only buy less from us, but they'll buy less in general because they just won't need as much. So we do have to find another alternative. And here again, Argentina, they've been doing this for a long time. Crush the beans and keep the jobs in the country, and then sell the meal on, as a value added. I think we're going to start doing more of that. So if you could get the construction cost, the construction cost to build a bean plant in the last 6 years has doubled. So it's kind of cost prohibitive. We would use the oil. Now the meal would be the issue. You would probably have to export half of it, and you would probably see half of that extra meal get consumed here in the U.S. I think you'd see an increase in the livestock herd. You'd see more hogs, more birds. If you have a cheaper meal protein around, you would think, hey, it should expand livestock, and which could allow us to maybe export more meat. Here again, another value-added product. I think this is all great if we can get it done.
I think you've mostly answered the next question that I had for you. Is there a shrinking need for livestock protein, which leads to less need for corn, soybean purchases globally? But it sounds like our domestic need could potentially grow, not necessarily worrying even as much about what's happening globally at this point.
That would be kind of my bias, is we know we're slowly increasing the cattle herd. If you have more meal, simple supply demand 101, more meal should result in a little bit lower price, which should try to work into more rations. It should encourage people to maybe add some livestock near where some of these bean plants are, just because the meal will be closer. It just feels to me like we will have an opportunity to increase livestock production here in the U.S. And like with the cattle, they're not going to use a lot of meal, but they're going to be looking at proteins, and it's all competition right now. And that's with the crop report coming out here next Tuesday, I believe. One of the questions is the feed residual number too high already for the corn crop that we have? And I don't think it's not that we aren't maybe seeing livestock increase, but there's a lot of feed things looking to get into the feed. You've got corn, you've got a huge milo crop down south, you've got a lot of feed wheat in the U.S., and of course, as we increase bean crush, there's more meal. There's lots of competition for the feed protein side, and so that might hurt the corn balance sheet a little bit on this next report. But it definitely feels like if you've got all of these things around, that should help in increasing the livestock herd as a whole.
And we're looking forward to seeing that increase happen. So Gregg Hanson, Hanson Agri Commodities, joins us every Friday at the 1:20 time mark. Gregg, where can folks reach you when they want to ask further in-depth questions than what we covered today?
Well, you can always give us a call at our number. It's 507-338-6433. You can check us out on our Facebook page, Hanson Agri Commodities, or you can look at our website, which is hanson-ag.com.
Gregg does a marvelous job of walking us through what's going on in the market each week. We look forward to that again next week. Thanks, Gregg.
Thank you. Have a good week.
You too, and stay tuned. We want to see what's going on in the news. When we return, we want to talk about some ag headlines. And Dean, there is a meteor shower. Maybe you can give us some insight into that as well.
Yes. We'll be right back.
For your Christmas gifts, some of you are thinking about doing homemade goods, and I think that's a great idea. Something quite admirable in being able to hand a gift to someone that you made yourself. Well, what about the homemade jams and jellies? Good news, the Moorhead Public Library is having a holiday canning workshop next Tuesday, December the 9th at 5:30. They're going to partner with Clay County Extension. They're going to give you the ideas of being able to do freezer jam, as well as talk you through canning in hot water baths under pressure, freezing, drying techniques, and more. I am an avid home canner. I think this is awesome. I hope more people sign up to go. Again, that's with the Moorhead Public Library next Tuesday. There are some things going on in the weather these days. One of them happens to be a meteor shower of the year. Hopefully that's not interfering with any internet capabilities, because that's why we would have guys like Tech Support Farm to help you out.
Yeah, and that speaking of that Geminid meteor shower, Bridgette, that started yesterday, and it peaks late next week, right around the 13th and 14th, and then starts to tail off towards the 20th. If you've ever caught them, they are absolutely beautiful. You could see, oh boy, I mean, depending on the night when it gets to the peak, you got to go outside of city lights, obviously, and there's hundreds per hour you can see shooting across the sky. Now, next week, you might as well just write it off, because unfortunately, we're going to have quite a few clipper systems that will be coming through the area all next week. Might get a peak Saturday night to tomorrow night into early Sunday morning, but that's not even the peak. The peak, as I said, about the 13th through the 15th, and that time period, we may actually catch a break. So that would be the following weekend. So, and it looks like, at least this standpoint, we might see a little break in that clipper system activity as we head into next weekend. But most of next week, if you're looking to catch the Geminid meteor shower, good luck. It's probably not going to have very good opportunity with the cloud cover and precip coming our way. So next weekend we'll work on clearing out some of those clouds, and hopefully we can get a better view of that.
Well, that's really too bad, because like the Northern Lights, that's one of the appeals that we have of living this far north and being able to see those types of things in a bright night sky. So, all right, maybe we could get a little break in some clouds eventually, and we get a chance to pick this up during its peak season.
Yeah,
that'd be great.
No doubt. Hey, you've seen them before, haven't you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, but who misses that opportunity, right?
Right.
Come on now.
Exactly.
Speaking of opportunity, 2 beef processing facilities are incorporating artificial intelligence to increase their harvest yields. So with the cattle supply the lowest it's been in years, improving the yield that you are able to harvest during processing really does matter. And so for every ounce of beef that is returned back into the food supply, that can constitute 350,000 meals a year. So just putting that ounce back in is such an impact. Obviously, the industry's got about 27 billion pounds, but we like to see even more. So what they're doing is they are using a system called CARVE, C-A-R-V-E, and the CARVE technology uses cameras that are actually identifying further areas in which you can do some meat processing. So it's a smart algorithm that tells you the way to read the grading. When an animal enters a livestock processing facility, and I will base this off my experience of having been able to tour Demcota in Aberdeen back in June. That animal comes through. There's about 50% of the processing that is hands-on, because every carcass is different. Every animal that comes in is maybe slightly different size. You've got, you're trying to do some of the electronic grading where you're looking at, the grade of the ribeye, et cetera. And so even though we are trying to already use some technology in there, there's a lot that still has to be done by hand. Some of the ways in which we can improve this is by using the cameras like this CARVE technology to say, wait, this animal's shaped a little bit differently. We can butcher a little more over here or there so we don't leave meat behind. So that's really what we're trying to do, is to continue to recover at least another 0.5% of yield depending on the cuts that we're doing. And it can also help to trim more fat, because folks are looking for lean proteins. And so if that animal is shaped differently, you can make sure to take some of the fat out of it as well, so you have better quality meat in the end through the processing. So I would tell you that it was an experience. I'm familiar with butchering. We did it as kids. I'm a deer hunter. We process our own meat. Oftentimes, it was still very eye-opening to walk through a processing plant and watch the entire beef animal from the time it gets off a truck until it's leaving the other end of the plant in a box, frozen.
See,
It was a lot to learn.
Yeah, when I worked in Nebraska at the start of my career back in North Platte, we got to go tour. I believe it was in Lexington, Nebraska, the big beef packing plant there. Is that correct?
That's the one that's just closing.
That's the one that's just closing. Yeah, that thing
Yes.
it's enormous, just absolutely, just incredible.
They process 5,000 head per day at Lexington versus what we saw in Aberdeen, where they're probably doing more like 1,500 head a day. And at Lexington, there's also 3,200 employees as part of that plant.
Ugh.
With that plant closure, it's said to it's going to make some impacts in the marketplace. A lot of the animals that were shipped to Lexington are going to get shipped to other markets that are within a 50-mile radius. Also, that plant needed to have some upgrades to the tune of into the billions.
Oof.
So that's part of the reason why not doing the upgrades, but instead driving that business to some of the other packing plants. Now, it does add travel time for transportation and transportation costs, I should say, but they're trying to weigh it out as most efficient and profitable. And if somebody else wants to start a regional packing plant, I think that would be welcomed in the area. The place that bothers me the most here is you have 3,200 people working for that plant that are now going to have to either relocate or change jobs, have further commutes, that type of thing. And I hate to see that type of an impact on a community.
Yeah, no doubt, especially that many, no doubt. Now, with now, how is that going to affect? Is that going to affect beef costs a lot? I mean, they're already up there. Is in our area at least, or not so much?
Well, I don't think we're going to see any drop in beef prices.
No, yeah.
At least, I mean, just in our conversation with Gregg Hanson right now, in our last segment, we talked about the very slow growth that we're going to try to see with the U.S. beef herd. But as far as will it drive up costs? That probably remains to be seen. Would it drive up costs that it would be a huge change in what you see in pricing? Probably not.
Okay.
I constantly hear hey, buy local from a local rancher. Yeah, get out there. If you have a rancher that is able to provide you with beef through a local butcher shop, absolutely. Take advantage of that anytime you can. But if you're going to go after that assuming it's going to be cheaper, no, it's not cheaper than buying in the grocery store, because these people still have to do all the same things. They've got to raise those animals. They've got to pay for the processing, all of it that goes right along, with the cost of regular production, right? So you can buy the quality, but don't assume that you're going to have a gigantic drop in price when you do it.
And yeah, I'd rather have the quality and pay a little bit more. It tastes
I
better.
think that's probably fair.
Yeah.
And we always are going to need the larger processors because you have areas of the country. I think about high urban areas, particularly on the coast, where people just don't have that access. Someone from the city of Philadelphia is not going to drive 50 miles out in the country to find a cattle producer to buy beef from them. Mm-hmm. That's just not part of their culture, sometimes not even part of their skill set or their abilities.
Right.
So we're still going to have all the different parts of what we do in processing beef in the U.S. So more to come. We'll have a recap of the weather. We've got more ag headlines that we can visit about when we return as we ramp up for Dean's LRC weather special, which will start here after the 2 o'clock hour begins. So stay tuned for more.
And welcome back to Weather and Ag in Focus, 1:49 in the afternoon. Temperatures outside in the teens, a little bit of a breeze out of the north. Producing a little bit of blowing snow out in the central part of the state. We've had reports of westbound 94, seeing a little drifting snow, kind of greasing up that westbound lane. So keep that in mind if you're on 94 going west of the valley. Now, we're looking at those winds will start to relax as we head towards evening. And they'll relax overnight to about 5 to 10. And we'll drop down overnight tonight to anywhere between 0 and 5 above. So, again, great ice-making weather. This is fantastic for our ice fishermen, that's for sure. Might see a few flurries come in late tonight, a few light snow showers tomorrow morning. But accumulating snow in the far west and central part of the state as a clipper system dives into South Dakota. That is going to give some accumulating snow, let's say from, Dickinson, Watford City area down through about Bismarck and Wahpeton and points south of there. Now, if you're having travel plans tomorrow going into South Dakota, let's say you're taking 29 down towards Sioux Falls. Those areas, 3 to 5 inches. Those roadways are going to get pretty greasy tomorrow if you're going south. But for us, we're right on the northern end of that, so I'm not looking at a whole lot. And temperatures over the weekend, pretty darn cold, between 10 and 15 on Saturday, 5 to 10 above as we head into Sunday. And then we get on the Clipper train as we head into next week with 2 or 3 storm systems coming into the area. So we're going to add to the snowpack. And this is there's going to be a couple parts of the LRC cycle that we'll quote unquote call the stormy parts. This is one of them, where we get these, just 3, 4, 5 clipper systems racing through the area. That's going to be one part of the LRC cycle. The other one is going to be kind of what we had in the fall. If you remember, and Bridgette, we were talking about this earlier, how the central and western part of the state got soaked, even as close by as, like you said earlier, western Cass County. That is the second part of the stormy part of the LRC cycle. That's what we're going to call the wild card, because that's not going to be as you go deeper into the winter season, that jet stream sags a little further south, so that heavy rain that fell across our area or just west of here in the fall may very well set up just south and east of us, but that's not a guarantee. So there's 2 stormy parts of the LRC cycle, and those are it. So something we'll be talking about more coming up here on our LRC special.
Looking at the road report right now, we're seeing icy conditions are beginning right around the Oriska exit, which is Highway 38. So if any of you are headed westbound, or even those who are coming from east, if you have road reports for us, I think we'd all be curious to hear what's going on there. As we've said, those east-west roads will start to ice over a little bit more throughout the day and into tomorrow as well. If you're planning on traveling, maybe one of the things you want to take in this year, who doesn't want to go to the National Potato Expo? Potato Expo 2026 will be held January 6th to the 8th in Dallas. So what happens at a Potato Expo? Well, all the things you can think of. New equipment. There are 30 educational sessions, 180 exhibitors fill up 100,000 square feet of trade show space. Because when you bring in the planters, the harvesters, etc., they take up some room. And we talked yesterday with Nick Chito from Prairie Ag about their Lockwood line of equipment, where they do have the harvesters, the planters, so much more that goes along with the potato business. And Lockwood is a big part of potatoes, even at events like this. We know that TJ Hall of Northern North Dakota, he is on the National Potato Council Executive Board. And I think we're going to be able to talk with him after this event to kind of give us the rundown. Potatoes want to feel a little bit more love. In some of the most recent trade negotiations, they were sort of left out. Everybody wants to talk about corn and soybeans, and we forget about potatoes, which we shouldn't, because potatoes here in North Dakota, we actually are number 5 in production nationwide. So it's a big part of our economy as well.
And who doesn't? I mean, you got to have potatoes for French fries, right? So that's important.
Every day. Yes.
Well, that'll do it for Bridgette, myself. We want to thank everybody for joining us on Weather and Ag in Focus. Don't go anywhere. The Jay Thomas Show with the LRC Winter Outlook. We'll have Gary Lezak joining us. That's coming up at the top of the hour.